Hi, my name is Michael Nottinger, and I'll be doing this short introductory course on the chakras. So, chakras are vortexes of energy that power our consciousness on a non-physical level. On a physical level, they are endocrine glands, which secrete hormones and neurotransmitters, which vastly alter our experience of subjective reality. On a physical level, they are also bundles of nerve fibers that produce electrical activity throughout the human physical vehicle. So they are non-physical pranic energy, physical electrical activity, and also physical chemical activity within us and outside of us to a certain degree. They're at the core of everything we experience. They provide access to what are called the non-physical dimensions of the universe, and they're also one of the most important aspects of reality to understand because they're at the core of literally everything we experience. And energetic blockages in your chakras can literally ruin or destroy your life, whereas energetic openings in your chakras can lead you to create a truly wondrous and magical life. In this particular course, just be going over a small amount of information relative to the chakras, literally infinite information relative to them. I'll also be talking about how the chakras interface with different aspects of the most important components of our own physical reality. So first, I'm going to be talking about the chakras and evolution. So evolution is the purpose of the physical universe. We are pieces of source or God or awareness or consciousness or the universe, and it does not know what it is. We are on a divine journey to find out what we are. If you are occupying a place of pure unity in non-physical reality, you can only know yourself from a platform of separateness in physical reality. The physical dimension is as separate as things can possibly be. Source does not know what it is, for it is infinite, eternal, it can create or be anything. It contains paradoxical and complementary aspects. It is the only thing which really exists, and it constantly changes into something else. The more conscious it becomes, the more of itself there is to become conscious of. However, all things are possible, and Source possesses infinite power, patience, and time. It seeks to find an all-encompassing answer to the ultimate question: who am I? What we would consider the largest portion of Source that is not incarnated into physicality maintains full immersion in the perspective of oneness. We choose to incarnate in every conceivable form, time, space, and dimension. We choose to go through every possible experience, the best and the worst. Duality is what gives definition to unity. We cannot recall our past lives because it is too much to deal with in a physical form. People who experience tragedy merely in this single lifetime often find themselves unable to move forward. Imagine if you were able to remember every mistake, trauma, and crime you've ever experienced in countless different forms. You'd be so overloaded with mental and emotional energy that you could not truly participate in physicality. We already know what we were in the past, so we come here to find out what we are now. The now is ever expanding. To completely know the infinite, one must adopt every possible finite perspective. Life serves the purpose of the evolution of all consciousness in every dimension and every universe. Evolution follows the shape of a spiral, which is why one will find spirals in all fractal scales from the macrocosm to the microcosm. The spiral embodies a reminder of why we are here. One can look at almost anywhere in nature and begin to remember their purpose. We are participating in a sacred process of consciousness becoming conscious of itself, which unfolds through our thoughts. Every time a being incarnates, it generates a non-physical idea of what an improved life would be. Then they become, or many generations become, that idealized improvement of physical expression. This is the true reason for the evolution of material species. Physical species evolution is merely the result of something much grander in scope. Evolution involves matter continuously raising in its vibrational frequency. Through physical experience, we become more complex and self-aware. The universe is evolving towards a oneness which will become completely conscious of itself. Our emotional system indicates whether we are in line with what we are evolving towards or not. We can align with our personal evolution as well as the collective evolution by aligning with our own happiness. The purpose of life is essentially evolution and happiness, or bliss. Species also evolve through the chakras. During the root chakra era, humans were obsessed with materialism and survival. We lived primarily in caves, and our mental capacity was very low. It was a dark and dense time to be alive in physicality. During the sacral chakra era, we used water to develop agriculture, the construction of ships, and commerce. We also greatly expanded the human population through the process of procreation. We followed our emotions more so than anything else. During the solar plexus chakra era, which started about 5,000 years ago, we built hierarchical structures, usually with one man at the top of each pyramid. We became obsessed with will, power, control, technology, and masculinity. There's been a great deal of conflict in the last 5,000 years because we are exerting far too much control. We're also primarily looking through the eyes of the temporal self. So if you look around our society today, we're completely obsessed with solar plexus chakra energy. You know, how big are your muscles? How beautiful is your spouse? How big is your house? What can you do? How much technology you have, and so on, which can make you feel good and feel pleasure temporarily relative to external material things. But if you focus only on the external material world, you eventually feel empty inside because you're pursuing something that can never actually give you happiness, joy, or peace inside, which you only find within yourself by loving and accepting yourself as you are. So we are now evolving into the heart chakra era as a species. Our focus as a species is shifting from power, control, and technology to balance, love, and harmony. We work towards creating a world that truly works for everyone equally, rather than a world that really only works for those who have a certain level of power. We will create harmony both within and without, thus substantially raising our level of consciousness. What happens at the higher chakras or at those levels is not as well known. We can surmise what will happen based upon the characteristics of each chakra. At the throat chakra level, we will be working towards developing sound technology, communication mechanisms, and mental faculties. We begin to be imbalanced towards the spiritual polarity as opposed to the material polarity. At the third eye chakra level, we're working to develop light technology, psychic abilities, and more expansive mental components of consciousness. At the crown chakra level, we're working to create more spiritual technology, connections with the totality of the universe on physical and non-physical levels, and the highest aspects of consciousness. We'd be concerned primarily with how to merge back into the non-physical dimensions entirely. So now I would like to talk about energetic blockages, which are very important to understand. A chakra can be closed or open. If a chakra is closed, it's closed in an excessive or deficient way. A deficient response is a lack of focus and action, while an excessive response is too much focus and action. An open chakra is perfectly balanced with harmonious energy flow. Very few people have no major energetic blockages because source energy is infinitely complex and paradoxical. It also usually takes about 10,000 hours of spiritual work to master the chakras. And I personally have never met anyone who has totally mastered the chakras because it takes a tremendous amount of effort, time, and energy to master them. And if you had perfectly mastered them, you would not have even chosen to incarnate into this dimension because you've already mastered all aspects of this reality of no incentive to come here into a physical form. A deficient root chakra would result in things like not eating enough, being homeless, not having a job, a lack of survival-based relationships, chronic health issues, being ungrounded all the time, and others. An excessive root chakra would manifest as eating far too much, trying to obtain the biggest house possible, working all the time, accumulating only professional relationships, fixation on health, being overly attached to the physical dimension, and others. An open and balanced root chakra would come about as having balance and harmony relative to one's survival aspects. A deficient sacral chakra may arise as shutting down to emotion entirely, never pursuing pleasure, closing off to sexuality, never engaging in creativity, feeling disconnected from the natural flow of life, and more. An excessive sacral chakra may come to pass as being extremely emotionally reactive, obsessing with personal pleasure, having too many sexual partners or encounters, only participating in creative projects, fixation on the flow of life and others. An open and balanced sacral chakra results in free-flowing emotions, a moderate amount of pleasure, and a conscious expression of creativity. A deficient solar plexus chakra rises as feelings of powerlessness, a lack of action, allowing circumstances to continuously descend into chaos unnecessarily, and low self-esteem. An overactive solar plexus chakra manifests as intense attachments to personal power, constant conflicts in relationships, taking action of some kind every moment, exerting far too much control, and doing things that only benefit one's temporal self while not really benefiting anyone else. An overactive solar plexus chakra is quite prevalent in the world today due to our current level of consciousness. A solar plexus chakra that is open and in balance results in access to infinite personal power, harmonious relationships, intuitively guided actions, just the right amount of control, and aligning one's personal will with cosmic will. A good mantra that you can use to activate your solar plexus chakra is my will and cosmic will are one. So your own personal will is different from the will of the universe to a certain degree, unless you choose to align it with the universal will. So your personal will is your own free will as a human being. You can choose to do what you want, whether it benefits anyone else or not, or you can choose things that benefit both you and other people and the universal flow or the universal mind, things that contribute to collective societal and species evolution. And I can promise you that it's better to align your personal will with cosmic will, because to go against cosmic will or the will of the universal mind or the natural flow of things will require a tremendous amount of power, control, and effort on your part. And you'll usually be harming yourself or someone else unnecessarily. Whereas if you align your personal will with the will of the cosmos, pretty much everything that you do will be easy, effortless, awesome, and enjoyable the vast majority of the time. So I highly recommend trying to align your will with the will of the cosmos as often as you possibly can. A heart chakra that is underactive or blocked in a deficient way will come to pass as being totally closed off to relationships, living in a state of constant fear, living in a state of perpetual imbalance in some way, self-hatred, a lack of empathy, feeling disconnected from all biological life forms, and so on. A heart chakra that is overactive or blocked in an excessive fashion will arise as a chronic fixation on relationships, avoiding dealing with fear, an obsession with balance and avoidance of real change or evolution, an excessive love and a lack of power, and focusing too much on connection rather than separation. An open and balanced heart chakra results in desirable relationships, fearlessness, self-love, love for others, harmonious flow between balance and evolution, equilibrium between love and power, and an intuitive understanding of how to effectively deal with other biological life forms. A throat chakra that is blocked in a deficient response comes to pass as never or rarely speaking with other humans, a lack of ability to hear intuitive guidance from within, and a lack of creative expression. A throat chakra that is constricted in an excessive response comes to pass as speaking too much, but not listening, hearing too many voices within, and a fixation on creative projects that are more mental in nature. A throat chakra that has harmonious energy flow will arise as a perfect balance between speaking and listening, effectively perceiving intuitive messages both within and without, as well as moderate production of creative projects. A third eye chakra that is blocked in a deficient manner manifests as an inability to perceive what transpires within or without, overly intellectual thinking, a lack of access to the spiritual dimensions, and an overly emotional focus. A third eye chakra that is blocked in an excessive fashion comes to pass as an obsession with the non-physical aspects of reality. Overly intuitive thought patterns, a lack of focus on the physical dimension, and a fixation upon thoughts rather than emotions. A third eye chakra that is open and balanced arises as taking into account both the physical and non-physical aspects of life, using both intellect and intuition, and utilizing both thoughts and emotions to navigate through life. A crown chakra that is blocked in a deficient response arises as a lack of awareness of the spiritual aspects of life, a minimization of mental faculties, a disconnection from the non-physical dimensions, low energy levels, and limited access to possibilities of experience. A crown chakra that is blocked in an excessive manner gives rise to obsession with the spiritual aspects of life, chaotic thought patterns, withdrawing too much into the non-physical dimensions, overly high energy levels, becoming lost in the infinite possibilities available without taking any physical actions. A crown chakra that is vibrating in harmonious balance manifests as a strong connection to the non-physical dimensions, taking both material and immaterial aspects of life into account as needed, and focused thought patterns, or no thought patterns at all, being half in and half out of the physical dimensions, moderate energy levels, and acute awareness of what possibilities are best to act on in any given moment. So like, for the last several years or so, there's been a massive collective crown chakra blockage in our species, which arose as the coronavirus. So corona means crown, and crown is connected to the crown chakra. So the reason that the coronavirus happened or manifested through the universal mind and through our species is because for the last several thousand years, we were way too focused on our own temporal identities, our human identity, denying our spiritual eternal identity because we wipe our memory of that before entering into this dimension to a certain degree. So there was this massive global pandemic that was initiated by the shadow government to a certain degree, and also initiated by the universal mind and through our own collective manifestation to another degree, because it was the message from the universal mind saying, stop focusing so much on yourself, focus more on other people, focus more on what is best for me and everyone rather than just what is best for me. And so, I personally did a lot of crown chakra work during the last several years and helped a lot of people open up their crown chakras, and the pandemic has been slowly dissipating, even though the shadow government is trying to make it happen once again. The shadow government is a collection of corporate and banking interests that occupy the highest levels of governments, corporations, and banks, who manipulate the entire world for their personal benefits. So I would consider myself to be a light occultist who is using this knowledge I'm giving you here about how energy and chakras and manifestation and such work to help humanity evolve, spiritually awaken, and help others move along their own personal evolutionary pathway. Whereas a dark occultist will use this kind of information I'm giving you here to actually manipulate and control other people for their own personal benefit. They're obsessed with personal power and everything else. They're willing to harm themselves or other people in order to obtain more power and control. And so, in this dimension, you can choose the light or dark pathways. The light pathway is a lot easier to deal with than the dark pathway. We have to choose both pathways in different lifetimes to experience both polarities of the self. And if you choose the dark pathway, there's a lot of negative karma that comes back to your life. Is insanely complicated and challenging, and you have to basically constantly lie, cheat, manipulate, steal, and harm other people in order to move forward in life. Whereas in the light pathway, it's not the case. You choose to help yourself, help other people, and you will never harm yourself or someone else. You operate from the heart chakra, whereas a dark occultist operates primarily through the solar plexus chakra. So now I'd like to talk about the chakras and Kundalini. So Kundalini energy is the energy that arises up the chakras to activate them when you spiritually awaken. So Kundalini is the energy that rises up the spine to activate all the chakras simultaneously in a grand fashion. It happens when one experiences a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening involves the realization that each of us is a portion of universal consciousness, that we exist for eternity, that we create our realities with our minds. The non-physical aspects of reality are much larger and more substantial than the physical aspects of reality. Everything is connected and much more. Kundalini energy can be stimulated through many modalities, such as yoga, meditation, entheogens, fasting, crystals, and others. It can also be accessed by fully embodying our authentic selves, or being authentic with other people as much as we can. Kundalini is the energy of change, growth, evolution, physical manifestations, a perfect balance of the masculine and feminine polarities, sexuality, creativity, and conscious awareness. So the more Kundalini energy that one is able to channel, the more they're able to change, and the faster they're able to change both within as well as without. Those who channel fairly low levels of Kundalini energy are not able to change very much inside or outside. Those who are able to channel high levels of Kundalini energy are able to implement massive changes, both within and without. Humans who are able to channel high levels of Kundalini energy in the past were well-known figures such as Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Siddhartha Gautama, or the Buddha, Christ, John Lennon, and more. Each of these individuals were able to create great changes in their fields and environments. However, most of them also pushed the envelope too far and were assassinated by those at lower levels of awareness. So in the movie Inception, there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is training Ellen Page's character for how to consciously manage the dream state. Ellen Page's character starts to change things rapidly in the dream with her mind. Leonardo DiCaprio's character warns her that she cannot change things too quickly, or the projections will converge on her. She disregards his statement and is promptly killed by the dream projections. What this means for us is that we can only change things so fast in the physical dimension. Otherwise, the mental projections of Source, which in this case will be mostly other humans, will converge on us and stop us from implementing such rapid alterations. In the non-physical dimensions, virtually anything can be changed quickly with little to no resistance. In the physical dimension, things can only change so much so fast. And the reason for this is that the physical dimension was designed to be as separate and different from the non-physical dimensions as possible so that we can truly experience ourselves in a physical format. We all get tired of the spirit world and we choose to come here. So we want an experience as vastly different from the spirit world as much as possible because we already experienced that perspective forever in non-physical reality. So in the spirit world, there is infinite unconditional love, beauty, and peace. And we say, well, this totally sucks. I need something that's a lot more challenging than this. So being in that state or that dimension for eternity, you know, it drives you insane sometimes. It makes you feel bored. Other times it causes you to crave to experience something else. We have the power to experience something else. We choose to incarnate trillions upon trillions upon trillions of times into physical forms, which is what you see in front of you right now, just one physical form that you will choose out of trillions upon your infinite eternal expression as a portion of source consciousness. So now I'd like to talk about the chakras and manifestation. So the chakras are also greatly connected to manifestation. Manifestation is the process whereby consciousness creates physical reality. We're all portions of source, and so we're imbued with the same creative power. We create primarily with our mental faculties. Basically, whatever is within us is mirrored outside of us, similar to a movie projector with a screen in front of it. Reality could be described as a mirror hologram that is spherical in nature. Positive thoughts and emotions usually lead to harmonious experiences, while negative thoughts and emotions typically create more chaotic experiences. Focusing on the heart chakra usually creates the most harmonious experiences, but not always. Sometimes the universe will intentionally draw attention to one of the other chakras in any given circumstance. Focusing intensely on a particular chakra also dramatically influences the behavior of the people around us. However, we must be careful with using this kind of power. If we become a profoundly manipulative person, then we will attract manipulative people into our reality. Dark occultists manipulate the minds of others constantly in order to increase their level of power and control. Although it is beneficial in some circumstances to intentionally do something like this, or influence the behavior of others with our chakras. For example, if one is engaged in a chaotic conflict with someone, it would be beneficial to project out heart chakra energy with the intention of diffusing the conflict in that particular situation. So as you work on your chakras more and more, you gain more and more spiritual power. Your aura becomes stronger, your influence over heal becomes higher, and you start to see just how much the chakras change and influence your reality through manifestation or the law of attraction. So I'll just give you some examples of this. There was a time when I was working at a call center for this gym corporation where I was reading this book called Wheels of Life by Anodea Judith, which I highly recommend. It's probably the best book on the chakras that I've ever read so far. It's immensely detailed and complicated, but it is also super powerful and stimulating. So when I was reading the solar plexus chakra chapter, I got into constant conflicts internally and externally with myself and other people. Everyone was super reactive emotionally around me. I got into a lot of conflict with my coworkers. When I was reading the crown chakra chapter, I was vibrating on this really high frequency, a lot of energy and information and light coming through. But all of my coworkers and everyone who called me over the phone just like totally lost their minds. So this one guy that I was working with literally started pleasuring himself, smoking cannabis, and doing online shopping at his desk in front of everyone. And no one did or said anything about it either. It was really strange, including me. And then everyone who called me over the phone had no specific questions about the gym. Like my whole job was to take questions over the phone from people about the gym. And these people had no specific question about the gym. It was like, oh, tell me where to go, tell me what to do. I don't have any specific questions. And I was thinking, you called me and you have no questions whatsoever about this corporation you called. That makes absolutely no sense. Because I was channeling a lot of crown chakra energy at that time. I was reading this crown chakra chapter and I was using stones that resonate with the crown chakra and a number of other things. But then I was reading the heart chakra chapter, things are usually balanced and harmonious. So if you're channeling a lot of pranic energy out of pretty much any of the chakras except for the heart, you can create really dense, undesirable, and chaotic experiences into reality because the heart chakra is the center of balance, equilibrium, and love. So when you get too far out of love or too far into fear or imbalance, you can attract really dark experiences into your own subjective reality and also into the collective reality of those around you. When you're generating a lot of love, compassion, equilibrium, and acceptance, you generate harmonious, desirable experiences. Everything becomes easy, effortless, and awesome. So I would say, when in doubt, channel a lot of heart chakra energy. However, different chakras will also be emphasized by the universal mind into your own subjective experience at different times in your life. So there may be times you have to work a lot on your root chakra, your solar plexus, your crown, or whatever. But in general, channeling a lot of heart chakra energy is usually your best bet most of the time, but not necessarily always. So now I talk about the chakras in presence. So practicing presence, acceptance, and detachment causes all the chakras to open. Presence is the same as present moment awareness, or focusing only on the here and now in a conscious fashion. If we seek some kind of identity in the past or seek some kind of gratification in a future timeline, we will inevitably experience some kind of pain or suffering. The same goes with acceptance. If we reject what we were experiencing in any given moment, pain and suffering will also arise simultaneously. When we struggle against the present moment, we are struggling against many universal forces all at the same time. When we accept the moment as it is, we feel profound inner peace and our minds become quiet. This does not mean that we do not take any action to change the present moment. It does mean that we accept what is happening and then consciously decide if we are going to change it or not. Detachment entails observing our thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and external experiences without attaching to any of them. Everything in the physical dimension is highly unstable and in a state of perpetual change. If we attempt to attach to anything within the physical dimension, we invariably experience pain and suffering because we're striving to attach to something that cannot be in a kind of totally fixed state for very long. Attachment is the perspective of the temporal self, while detachment is the perspective of the eternal self. The temporal self is a name that we call our physical body. The eternal self is an infinite sea of fractaling light vibrations composed of pure consciousness. So you see your temporal perspective in the mirror each day as your own physical body, and you only perceive your eternal perspective really when you access these transcendent states of consciousness, even though you perceive a small amount of it with every single thought that you have, because your eternal self is essentially all thoughts that have ever been, are now, or ever will be. But you only really experience larger portions of this eternal identity that you know as yourself in these transcendent states of consciousness when you've consumed a large quantity of entheogens, you're doing a long meditation session, you do yoga poses that resonate with the chakras, specifically the third eye and crown chakras. You use pretty much any modality that resonates with the higher chakras, which access your eternal identity, and lower chakras associated with your temporal identity, and the heart chakra is the balance between spirit and matter. So now I talk about the gut, the heart, and the mind. There are 3 subsystems within the 7 chakra system. They are the gut, the heart, and the mind. The gut is the 3 lower chakras of survival, sexuality, and power. The heart is its own subsystem. The mind is the 3 higher chakras of communication, perception, and consciousness. The heart is the most important subsystem. The gut is the second most important subsystem, and the mind is the least important, as innate tendencies, but not necessarily absolutes. The heart is the most important because it is the center of our being. The gut is of secondary importance because we cannot survive very long if our gut is shut down. The mind is the least important because it is possible to survive in physicality without really using one's mind very much. Animals and plants do not utilize their mental faculties very much, and they are able to live for decades doing so. They are highly emotional creatures. However, we as humans, we must use all 3 aspects of self together as one in order to truly survive and thrive. In The Wizard of Oz, the lion, the Tin Man, and the scarecrow represent the gut, the heart, and the mind. The lion needs courage, or guts, the Tin Man needs a heart, and the scarecrow needs a brain, or mind. There is much more occult knowledge in The Wizard of Oz, which there's not enough space-time for me to discuss here. But just, a few short examples. The wizard represents the shadow government. The dark occultists are manipulating humanity behind the scenes, who use technology to manipulate the masses, and they make themselves look a lot more powerful than they are, even though the masses give their power to them. Dorothy walks along this road, the yellow brick road, which starts out as a spiral. And the spiral represents the soul's journey through the physical realm, or the spiral of evolution, which is the way that everything changes in this particular dimension. And it's yellow because evolution is primarily associated with the solar plexus chakra, the chakra of transformation, forward movement, growth, and personal power. So if you focus on your solar plexus chakra, that tells you what's the next best step for you personally in your own personal evolution, but you need all the chakras to truly move forward and expand, and to account for the collective evolution as well. And in the book, The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy is wearing silver slippers, not ruby slippers, because silver is the color of the thread that connects the soul to the physical body whenever you go to these out-of-body experiences. And Toto represents intuition, emotional intuition. You have these gut and heart feelings that tell you to move in certain ways. So, Toto shows Dorothy that the wizard is actually just a man and not this super powerful god being. Her intuition reveals the truth to her. The flying monkeys that serve the Wicked Witch of the West represent deeply unconscious people that serve the needs of the shadow government. So deeply unconscious people do literally anything that anyone in a position of authority tells them to do. So they say, oh, I saw this newsreel that says I need to hate people from the Middle East. I'm going to do that. I saw this newsreel saying I need to inject myself with this coronavirus vaccine, so I'm definitely going to do that. Or I saw this newsreel saying that, the world is not a safe place. I'm, live in fear and lock myself up and buy a whole bunch of guns and do that. So do literally anything that any dark occultist tells them to do. And then there's the Wicked Witch of the West and, the Good Witch. And so that represents light and dark occultists. So, as I alluded to previously, dark occultists use this knowledge of the chakras and manifestation and energy to manipulate and control and harm other people, whereas light occultists use this knowledge of how energy and consciousness and manifestation work to help other people, help humanity evolve. They operate from their hearts, while dark occultists operate through the solar plexus chakra primarily. And then, you know, in the movie, Dorothy starts out in this world that's in black and white, and then she goes into this world that's in all multicolors. That represents being unconscious and being conscious. So when you're unconscious, your world is pretty, black and white, or dualized, and it's pretty gray and flat, and things don't look very good. The world looks like a pretty dark place, and you're not really sure why you're here, or who you are, or what's going on, or how to deal with it. But then when you spiritually awaken, the world becomes a lot more colorful, vibrant, bright, and beautiful place because you can see a lot more of what's going on. You remember who you are and what you are. You remember what this reality is and how it works, and you can see multiple frequencies. So someone who's unconscious usually primarily only use the first three chakras of survival, sexuality, and power. Whereas someone who is conscious can consciously send energy intentionally to any of the 7 chakras, and their world is much larger and grander in scope. So next, I'd like to talk about the 7 primary elements of the universe. So each chakra is associated with one of the 7 sacred elements of the universe. They are earth, water, fire, air, sound, light, and thought. Earth corresponds to the root chakra and survival. Our physical bodies are made of the same types of atoms and molecules that comprise most of the earth. We experience physical structures both inside of our bodies and also outside of our bodies. Water connects to the sacral chakra and sexuality. Our physical bodies are made of mostly water, which is comprised of hydrogen and oxygen. Water flows through our cardiovascular system, urinary system, digestive systems, and endocrine system. Water also exists outside of us as ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, oceans, rain, clouds, and hurricanes. Fire is associated with the solar plexus chakra and power. We experience fire internally as our metabolic processes, energy levels, physical strength, and non-physical power. We perceive fire externally as the element of plasma, traditional fire, lightning, technology, and power structures in human society. Air connects to the heart chakra and relationships. We have air flowing within us through our respiratory system and cardiovascular system primarily. Externally, we perceive wind, hurricanes, tornadoes, and relationships through the element of air. Sound corresponds to the throat chakra and communication. We experience sound or vibration within us as our 4 bodies composed of vibratory waves at various frequencies. Hearing sounds with our ears and hearing our own intuition. Sound exists outside of us as our voices, the voices of others, the sounds of nature, the sounds of technology, and many other levels of vibration. Light is associated with the 3rd eye chakra and perception. We see light within us as our own inner light, imagination, and the photons within our bodies. We experience light outside of us as the sun, fire, lightning, the moon, and technology. Thought connects us to the crown chakra and consciousness. We perceive thoughts internally through our minds and throughout the rest of our bodies, since everything is composed of thought or consciousness. We can see this element through all fractal scales throughout the universe and throughout existence. It just depends upon what you're mentally focusing on in any given moment. So we can perceive thoughts internally as the thoughts of other humans, the thoughts of animals, the internet, and cosmic consciousness, which is the universal mind or the force that powers absolutely everything in existence. So now let's talk about this image that you see here on the screen. This is some affirmations about the truth about the self that I took from this secret society called the Builders of the Adytum. So secret societies or mystery schools are deeply involved in the shadow government, which is this organization that manipulates humanity behind the scenes for their own personal benefit to maintain power control over our particular species. I highly recommend not joining a secret society because you can access the information they're giving out now for free on the internet or for a small fee in some metaphysics books. You can access it internally for free through meditation. It only really made sense to join secret societies in the past when this knowledge about how consciousness in the universe works was not readily available to the mass. We were vibrating a much lower frequency. And so it made sense to say, I'm going to take this blood oath and join your secret society and manipulate humanity behind the scenes and basically sell my soul for occult power, knowledge, and information. Whereas now there's no reason to join a secret society because you can just access the information for free. And there's no reason to, get killed for spreading information that is now widely available that just doesn't make any sense. So when you join a secret society, you have to take a blood oath that you're not going to reveal the information outside the society, and you basically sell your soul for occult power and knowledge, and you make a commitment to prioritize your own personal power over everything else, and say, I'm only going to serve my brothers in this secret society and basically manipulate, harm, and control everyone else. Whereas if you're a light occultist, you would do the exact opposite. That you say, I'm going to help other people as much as I can. I'm never going to harm anyone. I'm going to operate through my heart. I'm going to try to stay in balance and harmony with the universe. So you can use these affirmations here to access your eternal perspective, but you can also do that through other means that aren't connected with the secret side if you want to. And then this image that you see here is part of what's called sacred geometry, which is the geometry of consciousness, and everything is viewed with some level of consciousness. It's also the geometry of nature. So it's called the Tree of Life, or the Jewish or Hebrew Kabbalah, that has these 10 Sephiroth, which correspond to 10 dimensions of existence that exist both within us and outside of us. So, for example, the lowest level there, you see the Sphere of Malkuth, which is the kingdom. It's the physical dimension. It's connected to the root chakras, the aspects of life. In the center, you have beauty, which is connected to the heart chakra. It's the balance point between all the dimensions. The balance point between spirit and matter. And the top, you have Kether, or the crown chakra, which connects to the highest dimensions of existence, where all is literally one. So at the lowest dimensional level, this physical dimension we see outside of us is the densest, most separate, physical, finite, fixed, and static dimension. And then as you ascend the dimensional levels, things become more and more non-physical, more and more unified, until you reach the highest dimensional level where all is literally one, which you can see at that crown chakra level there. And this Kabbalah, or Tree of Life, also has tarot cards, Hebrew letters, sounds, musical notes, and so on that are associated with each chakra or each Sephiroth. You also have 3 pillars there: the pillar of severity, the pillar of mercy, and the pillar of equilibrium. So the pillar of mercy is on the right-hand side that you see, which is actually connected to the left side of the body, because if you would see this in a human being, they'd be flipped in a mirror scale, which is the feminine principle. It corresponds to the higher chakras from reality, about being merciful with yourself and others, accessing your feminine, mental, and spiritual components, and taking it easy on yourself and others. The other pillar you see on the opposite side, the pillar of severity, is about the masculine principle. The lower chakras of survival, sexuality, and power. So your physical and emotional aspects, about getting out and engaging life and being severe with yourself and others and moving forward. And being too imbalanced towards one polarity or the other can lead to extremely undesirable experiences in various different ways. And the pillar of equilibrium, which runs along the center of the human body, along the spinal column, which is also called Sushumna or Kundalini, is the balance point between the two polarities. So when your masculine and feminine polarities are in a state of perfect balance, you access your full evolutionary energy capacity, you access an infinite amount of energy and information, and you access a tremendous amount of spiritual power within yourself. But if you're imbalanced towards what are called the Ida or Pingala channels, which is Ida is the feminine principle and Pingala is the masculine principle, then you have access to limited amounts of energy and information. When you're energetically balanced, you have access to infinite electromagnetic energy and information. You become unlimited, and you really access your eternal identity. So that is about it for this short introductory course. If you'd like the full version of this class, you can contact me at my email address, which is my name, Michael Nottinger, all lowercase, no spaces, at yahoo.com. Thank you for watching this short video here. You're an infinitely powerful being. You can master the chakras, and I hope you have a cosmically synchronous evening.